So what? It's your boy, Bitz and Bobz. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Ladies and gentlemen, I am with 3 special guests tonight. I've already hyped them up before this. I don't mind doing it again. I am with 3 gentlemen that basically from my community, on the television, on the laptops, on the phones, have created a path where we feel we are represented. We feel that we have a voice. We feel that there's a safety networking where we can come, speak freely, and also be applauded. I give you the hosts of a very, very important podcast that where you can see football managers, you can see writers, journalists, football players, female and male. Guys, I give you the host of the Beautiful Game podcast. Gentlemen, good evening. How are you?
Very well. Thank you.
Very well. Thanks for
appreciate
asking,
that
man.
intro, man.
Yeah, man. It's a pleasure to come onto your platform. As I told you before, bro, I've been watching some of your content and I like the energy. I like the vibes. You know, you're very compassionate, empathetic with your guests, man. So big up for what you're creating, bro.
Thank you. O'Shea, go on. O'Shea.
At least you know some Yoruba. You've been learning.
You have to. So guys, do you know, like, obviously we do like intro, get to know each other and stuff, you know, talk about myself. But I want to really get into it because I already feel like I do know you guys individually. And you know, lockdown, you know, you've provided amazing content for people like myself. Other content creators, you know, I know that people look up to you. So when did it hit that you guys were onto something?
I would say from the minute. The minute we started the platform. I think just the way we think as a collective is more, how can we make an impact? How can we do something that people ain't doing? And I think a lot of people see the rise in lockdown, but we were putting in the foundation and the groundwork long before that. And I think lockdown just gave us a platform to just flourish, but all the groundwork was put prior to lockdown.
And we all know, like, us Africans, we have self-belief because, you know, we're taught to be confident and believe in yourself. Was there any moment when you were doing the groundwork that you thought, wow, man, now I will, like, this kind of wow. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, man, you know, you'll be looking out the window thinking, is this really it? Is this what, you know? Did you ever have any doubt?
Of course.
No, to be honest, in terms of, I don't think there's been, doubt, because to be honest, when we started this platform, the idea wasn't to become a media powerhouse, or we didn't say, you know what, we've got this 100-page document. This is what we want to achieve. We're going to be on Sky Sports. We're going to be on Talk Sport. We're going to be on Eurosport. There was none of that plan. It was just literally, let's enjoy ourselves. We like talking football with our boys. We want to meet up every Sunday. It was like a therapy. You know, I'm traveling down to London, going to Burton Budge, talking about football. Come home, release the content. I enjoy it. So from the start, there was never no plan. Okay, this was what it's going to become. But it's just those 1%, those compounding interests. Okay, you keep doing the right things. It brings you closer to success. So I would say no.
Yeah, but
and you know what?
No, I just wanted to quickly
go.
No, because Dave, like, I just want to go back to. I'll never forget the conversation when I called you on Boxing Day, because I actually went to Stratty Westfield and it was January sales, and I called Dej and I'm like, oh, Dej, have you seen the numbers of our latest episode? And we were like,
this is
raw. Like, this is blurry. Like,
in terms of, but are you talking in terms of like stopping our process, say, you know what, let's knock this on his head, kind of thing?
Yes and no. Just like, was there any time when you guys woke up and thought, man, is this worth it? Like,
so this is the thing, Bobby. So there's 2 different aspects that you can look at from this perspective, right? And both Dej and Dot have like somewhat alluded to it. So if you're looking at from the perspective of us being introspective with regard to our product, I don't think there's ever been any doubt, because from the get-go, we all knew what we were willing to put into the project. Whether that be time, resource, money, whatever, we've never had any doubt about that, because we've always been willing to invest what we need to invest. And also in terms of our knowledge, like, we know that we are trying to bring and produce top quality content and bring insight. It's not just a standard pub chat debate that we're having. It's top level insight that we're willing to constantly improve and better our knowledge about. We're constantly reading newspaper articles. We're constantly reading books. We're constantly improving our knowledge and going out there to ensure that our level of insight is always top notch. So there's never been any doubt from that regard in terms of what we're producing, because of the fact that, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
So there's never been,
yeah.
There's never been any doubt from that perspective, because we know what we're willing to put into the product. From the outwards, though, from the outward perspective, in terms of numbers, like what Dot is alluding to, and there's been obviously moments where we're like, well, we're putting in all this effort, we're spending this money, we're making like everything, we're going out of our way to produce, and yet still the numbers aren't correlating. Like it doesn't make sense that we're doing all of this, we're getting this insight, and in terms of the numbers, it's not matching up. So those are the moments that we've been a bit like, this is a bit tight, basically. I think
there was a groundbreaking moment. I remember when we went to Central London, we went to meet up with someone like an editor at a big company, and he loved the product. He's like, you know what, you boys are onto something. But he's like, okay, let me see your Twitter feed. Then we scroll down and he's looking at it. It's like, okay, all I see is links. You guys are talking about match reviews, but what are you telling me different that I'm not going to hear on a Totally Football show or another platform? They were like, it's kind of true, that's an interesting one. So that kind of made us think, okay, maybe that's why the numbers are so low, because we're delivering a similar service or a similar product to a whole pool of different people. So how can you now differentiate yourself and do something different that no one else is providing? So we kind of stumbled upon the idea of player interviews. And I think our interview, the feedback that we've got so far has been overwhelming, because there's situations where you can get a guest, but what you talk about isn't probably palatable. But what a lot of people say is that when we meet up with people, the way his guard just dropped. What, you interviewed him? Normally he doesn't talk to the press. How did you manage to get him to open up? That kind of thing. So I think that's where we kind of hit onto a winner in terms of separating yourself, and that's what we're trying to do.
No, definitely. I think just to very, very quickly add to what Des said, we were actually speaking to someone very senior at one of the top 6 clubs yesterday, and it was like the way you unarm your guests and get them to speak. I've never seen anything like it, and I think those are the comments that give us that energy to just keep going.
Do you know, it's funny because without you guys even knowing, you can already see the chemistry. Like I loved how Dej said no, but Dot used like and then Bitz was like, actually, fellas, I'll take this and just let me deliver the answer. And it's beautiful because to see 3 black men, so just passionate and just be excited to talk about the up and coming, the come up, for me is motivating. Because we're all aware that there's struggles in this world, and to doubt yourself is it's not weird to doubt yourself. So I'm happy just to hear this, to be honest. The way you guys interview people, I think it's crazy. When I say crazy, I mean the way what you said, Dej, about like they've just the guard goes down. We're talking about people that you've interviewed, right? We've seen them. It's a great game, the lads, good points. I'm just happy for do you know what I mean? The robotic answers, the PC stuff, and they never really answer the question, do they? They always, give it different. But when I watch you guys, I'm thinking, okay, this guy's actually talking, And like sometimes when I watch it on my TV, I'm moving closer. I'm like, like let me join. Like, do you know what I mean? and I think that feeling, the element of inclusion, man, I take my hat off to you. I salute to you guys, because one thing I'm trying to do on my podcast is for it to feel engaging, where you can feel that you can join the conversation, you can relate, and laugh, show any kinds of emotion. So thank you, seriously, for creating that for us all. My next question, okay, the football teams you guys support. Now, we all have African heritage here, okay? So I'm struggling to
that was coming next.
So, Bitz, I beg your pardon. Bitz, you support Arsenal, yes?
Yes.
Bob, you did Liverpool.
Yeah.
So Bitz is fine.
Yeah, I can answer the question because I know the question that's coming. But you know the answer to the question because but I'll answer it very quickly. My dad is Nigerian. African dads were glory hunters, yeah? Back in the day when my dad was growing up, Liverpool were winning everything. So that's why he supported Liverpool. And now that's been passed on to the rest of my family.
To be honest, I have like slightly a different story because growing up, my brother was a Man United fan. And obviously I'm the youngest brother. So my dad just used to get me Man United kits. And obviously I used to wear them and stuff. But when I was of an age where I could comprehend football, understand, I just grew towards Liverpool, you know, under Gerard Houllier, Owen, Heskey. Like, I just felt something for the club. So I was like, you know what, this is my team. I made a decision on my autonomy that, oh, you know what, I like Liverpool. Like, I'm going to start supporting them. So that's how I came to support Liverpool.
So Bob, then, before I come to you, how was that supporting Liverpool growing up then? As two black men, because for me, I have a friend, Niger boy, and he supports Liverpool. I used to cane him verbally before you guys obviously won the Champions League.
Yeah, we were whipping boys. It wasn't a fun place to be.
Yeah.
Like we were like the black sheep. Like everyone was supporting Man United, Arsenal. They're winning trophies. People would be like, "Oh, why are you supporting Liverpool, man? Come over this side," sort of thing. But
yeah,
it's one of those things that we had to stomach. That's why when we won the league last season, it was such a beautiful experience, isn't it? Because all those years of supporting Liverpool when we were in the doldrums, it paid off.
Yeah.
Bobby, they were shameless with it. Listen, I didn't look forward. When we used to record, and we used to link up to record, I used to think, these guys are going to be gloating again. I'm going to have my ear full of these people just chatting about Liverpool.
You know, it's like, obviously, talk to us about, obviously, Arsenal. I know it's an African thing. Wanku Kanu, the way Arsenal play, as Doc was talking about, like, African dads and stuff are glory hunters, but majority of African dads that I've came across, so uncles, support Asna, you know.
Asna.
What was it for you?
Do you know what? Funny enough, I was laughing when Doc mentioned that thing about dads, because my dad's the same. He actually supports Liverpool.
Are you serious?
My dad actually supports Liverpool. Yeah. But you know what? Funny enough, like when I was growing up, really early on, I actually wasn't so into football. Like when he would get me, trying to get me into it, I wasn't actually very, very interested. It's only when I started going to primary school and stuff, and then a lot of the like my friends in primary school were Arsenal fans. So I just jumped on a bandwagon because it was like all of them are fans in it. So I might as well just. But I actually wasn't really interested in football until like sort of year 4, year 5 almost. You know.
Oh, that's interesting, guys. You know, as you can see, we have the Beautiful Game podcast on YouTube. It's a troll account. I don't know why, but thank you for the views. But we move, you know. So guys, like, okay, do you know? I'm gonna fast forward a little bit because I'm intrigued. Bitz, they win the league, you know, and I know how Africans can be when it comes to being shameful, gloating, anyhow.
Listen, oh my god,
no, Budge, we were actually calm.
No, right? Do you know what it is? No, you see the thing about these two, Bobby, is that they have the humble brag. You know the humble brag where it's like, oh, it's nothing, you know. Just the best front three in the world, you know. Just the best defender in the world, you know. I mean, it's normal, isn't it? It's normal.
We used to get complaints, isn't it? People are these guys, man. They're rubbing it in. They were like, come on, Budge, like, sort it out, kind of thing. And Budge used to come in and say, boys, like, obviously, I'm getting a bit of complaints, innit? Like, we have to try and... That's what it got to.
No, but Dej, we were only stating nothing but facts. 19 wins in a row, best left back in the world. We're just saying things that everyone knew, so I don't know.
Do you know what? For the Scottish part of me, you know, the left back in the world, I was okay with that because he was Scottish and stuff, and you know. But you know, let me not lie to you. If Nigeria plays Scotland, I'm picking Nigeria. So that's the end to that combo. So okay, you guys win the league. Okay. Was it easier to start recording to do when you were doing the content? You know, was it part of you like, or giddy or happy or like, Bitz, good morning, how you doing? You know, it seems like a league champion kind of day. Like, did it change your mood in when you were recording the content? Because like, you guys were champions after 30 plus years.
Yeah, it made it easier to record. I'm not gonna lie, there was a period. Obviously, if your team's not losing, you're in a giddy mood. You wanna rock up to the studio, you wanna talk about it, kind of thing. So I think 110%. And there was a moment where I think we started our podcast or something, and we hadn't lost for like maybe 8-9 months or something like that. So obviously, it definitely helps your mood.
And to add to that as well, the thing about it is, me and Dot don't live too far from each other, but Dej has to travel. So the fact that he has to come down to the studio, he has to drive, go on the motorway and whatnot. But he's doing that drive with joy in his heart. Do you know what I mean? I'm gonna go and I'm gonna record because do you know what I mean? It made it a bit easier. You know what I mean?
I couldn't wait. I was driving on the motorway, listeling to TalkSport, listening to Liverpool fans calling in. We were brilliant today. We were fantastic. I was loving it.
No, but what I would say is, in terms of like when it came to player interviews and players that have association with Liverpool, it was really good to just rub it in and say, yeah, man, what do you think of Jordan Henderson? Like for me, picked up the Premier League, picked up the Champions League. So we're being humble about it, but deep down we know what we're doing. We're inciting the opposition fans.
Because I can imagine Dej on the motorway saying, "Bitz, I'm already come on, don't worry, no worry."
Traveling down was so easy. Like as I said, we hadn't lost for like 8 months, 9 months. You just think, you know what? I can't wait to get in the studio, talk my talk, and revel in the glory.
I can imagine. And you know what? Like, look, you know, I'm a Man United fan. Okay, I love Man United, and I'm also a football fan. And the way Liverpool done it, it pained me. But at the same time, it was like, wow, you know, like they've actually done it. And I think what annoyed people was the manner they done it. You know, it wasn't, you know, neck and neck, 1 goal, 1 point. They literally scattered everyone and just said, get out of here. And for me, I think, you know, look, you have to applaud it. You know, at the end of the day, every club has a cycle. Okay. And I'm looking at the time and I'm loving the way this is going. So I've got to ask, okay, guys, I've got to ask. Bitz, they went from league champions, Champions League, champions of the world, every accolade, player of the season, whatever you want to give them, they were taking, right? They were doing ginger, everything. Now, they're doing Shakara. They're just, you know, floating above the 8th, 9th position. So what's the mood like in the camp right now, Dej, Dot, and Bitz? Bitz, I want you to go first. Because are they still saying good morning, good afternoon? What's the energy?
Wow. Okay. If I'm being honest, the professionalism, obviously the dedication and whatnot, it never changes. It's always 100%. You know. Of course, the spring in the step isn't quite what it was last season, and I can say that I am most definitely pleased at that. I have a bit of peace of mind, you know what I mean? I don't have to hear these humble brags all the time. And you know what? Going back to what you said, yeah, Bobby, it's a really poignant thing. Like the way that they done it last season rubbed a lot of fans the wrong way because they absolutely obliterated everyone. But it's not only that, it's also that the way that the club has been run and the way they've gone about their business, so many fans, and this is me speaking from an Arsenal fan perspective, so many fans look at that in awe and jealousy because you want your club to be run like that. They're not a club that's backed by Russian rubles or Sheikh oil money. You know, they've recruited well. Like a lot of the players that they've bought were bought from team. Like let's keep it a buck. Average teams. Do you know what I mean? They haven't spent exorbitant fees. Whatever they have spent has been basically generated through player sales and so on and so forth. So they've gone about it the right way, and that's what hurts even more so. Do you know what I mean? When they were last season, when they were doing everything, it's those things, you know. So obviously, coming this season, I mean, I can't really gloat too much myself because my team isn't necessarily doing any better than what they're doing. Even with,
we will come there. Don't worry. Do
you know what I mean? So even though I can't really brag, but at least it's I don't have an earful like I had last season, isn't it? That's the main difference.
Before we come to Dej, Doc, I'd like to hear, you know, what was it like for you, the humbling of, you know, bringing back down.
Like, you think I'm capping, but I'm not. It's not really a humbling kind of thing. Obviously, we haven't been great champions. I agree with Roy Keane. We've been pretty much bad champions. But in terms of the dynamic of us as a trio, we don't really talk about the games or results too often. It's more when we're talking about football, we're speaking about, I spoke to this contact, or Dej, imagine I just spoke to this agent, or... So me and Dej, we very rarely speak about Liverpool's results. Sometimes we may have a 5-minute chat, but more often than not, we're talking about things out of the pitch.
And I think what's also changed that is when we first started the podcast, it was more of like a match analysis sort of thing. So we're actually talking about the game. Obviously now we've sort of switched over to player interviews. So those sort of chats doesn't really suffice, kind of thing. But, yeah.
And so okay, now just to get a quick snippet, okay, why do you think it's happened so quickly? And when I say so quickly, I actually thought when Liverpool won the league, I thought, okay, he's going to go on and do a dynasty. When I mean by dynasty, I mean they're going to dominate for the next few years. This was their cycle. Arsenal had it, Man United had it, Chelsea had it, City had it, and now it's Liverpool's time. You didn't start the season that bad, so I mean, just a quick snippet, guys. Like, what in your own thoughts? Why do you think it just went down?
I think it's a whole concoction of problems: injuries, lack of obviously player availability. We've had a lot of injuries. Van Dijk. I think too many of the players played too many games last season or over the last 12 to 18 months. So it's sort of like they've all got not all together, but they've expended so much energy. Like when you look at Manchester City, they've got a deeper and thicker squad. Liverpool haven't had that embarrassment of riches. Like Robertson, your boy, he's been forced to play every sort of game. You know, we haven't had that dependable understudy that can come in and play. Obviously, defensively, we've had a crisis. Alisson, bad form. Mane, Salah, Firmino, they've been playing every single game. Obviously, we've had Jota that's coming. He's obviously able to break up that front three, but again, he's been injured. So there's been lots of mitigating circumstances. And Liverpool is another team that's passion. They feed off emotion. And when you talk about the lack of fans in the stadium as well, I think all these factors have blended in. But as you were saying, I didn't expect it to happen this fast, that everything just crumbled. I was thinking that, you know what, this season, that's another title in the bank. But, you know, we're struggling for top four. So it's been painful to watch, but, you know, football.
But you don't think that, like, I called them Cookie Crumble FC, and my cousin, he's in the comments. He's a Liverpool fan, and he's a fan of you guys as well. And, you know, like, I used to, like...
Big him up.
Yeah, big up Vinci. And, like, I take jabs at him. Like, I'll call him, like, look at your club. Like, what are you saying? And then when we were top of the league, respectively... Obviously, you can imagine. Listen, I'm not gonna lie. I had no shame. I said to him, 21 and 21. You know, this is what happened. But obviously, we know what happened with that. Do you think, right? This is just a one-off. Like, you know, when AJ lost to Ruiz, it was just like it's just this season's just gonna be okay. You've lost now. Next season, you go again.
I would like to think so.
Okay.
Obviously, I can't read the future, and we don't have any sort of evidence to suggest that Klopp can rebuild a team, because when this happened to his Dortmund team, he left. So I think this is going to be the biggest test of his managerial career. Can he revigorate and reinvent this Liverpool team? And I think going back to what Ded said, I think there's been a whole catalogue of things that have culminated in the decline of this Liverpool team. And I think one of the massive things is confidence. Like, building confidence is like going up a stairs, but losing it is like going down the elevator. You can lose it very, very quickly. And I think, yes, a lot of people are quick to say Van Dijk's injury, you know, Joe Gomez picking up that nasty, horrible season-ending injury at England. A lot of people can point to that, but at the end of the day, the 11 players on the football pitch are still good enough to win the majority of games in the Premier League. And I think too many players have dropped off. And that's one of the big question marks that Klopp is going to have to answer next season. Can you rotate your team and still get results? Because that's the big difference between him and Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola knows he can trust 21 players in his squad.
Yeah.
Klopp knows he can only trust 13 players in his squad. And if you want to dominate for a long time, you need to rotate your team and trust 100%. All 21 players.
100%. Good. We're going to come to you. We're talking about trusting the players. You know, your club went through a hashtag of trust the process. You know, your club made a music video regarding a certain Ghanaian. What's happening with Arsenal? what's going down at Arsenal? You know, FA Cup champions, Community Shield champions. We'll give you your accolades. I'll give you your flowers because you're here. However, what's the vision now for Arsenal?
That's a really good question. And I think, you know, in terms of expectations and what fans are looking at the club to deliver, I feel like that certainly has been on a bit of a roller coaster throughout the course of the season. And what we were expecting at the beginning of the season certainly isn't what we're expecting now. I think everyone had accepted that we would be embarking on a bit of a rebuild under Arteta when he was brought in, and expected that things would take some time, you know, after the horror show that we had under Unai Emery before bringing Arteta on board. He did, but I think largely his successes papered over a lot of cracks in terms of the style of football, in terms of you know, what was happening behind the scenes as well in the dressing room and that kind of thing. And I think, you know, everyone had accepted that it was going to take some time, but didn't expect that things would drop off so significantly as they did when Arteta took the helm. And, you know, I remember obviously being in loads of different group chats and whatnot. It was looking pretty bleak and pretty stark for us, you know, people saying that we could potentially be in a relegation scrap and whatnot. And it's really interesting because I saw that The Athletic recently published some results from a survey that they did that was asking fans of all of the Premier League clubs, like, you know, how content and how happy they are with their clubs and various different factors and whatnot. I'm not sure if you guys had seen it, but it was interesting to see how highly Arsenal fans regarded how well they were doing so far this season. I think a lot of Arsenal fans have amnesia and have forgotten about the results and the performances that were being put on our TV screens prior to December. But I think it is encouraging to see the upturn in form since then. Whilst I do believe that Arteta is the right man, certainly at this point in time, for this stage of where we're at as a club at this point in time, I still do have question marks about him. By and large, when you hear from the players in the dressing room, you hear about how well and how highly they speak of him in terms of his tactical nous, in terms of how clear his instructions are, and you know, how much he's getting out of the players. That's one thing. But then sometimes I look at his tactical selections. I look at the players that he selects in his starting 11. Some things that he's done have just like led me to question a little bit. You know, is he? You know, I think it is also a bit grounding because it reminds you that this guy is still very much a novice and this is his first gig. You know what I mean? So he's probably going to get things wrong very often whilst he finds his feet and he you know is able to rebuild this squad. But there are certainly encouraging signs. You've got the rise to prominence of people like Emil Smith-Rowe, Bukayo Saka, who have now the two of them have become our two best and most important players. And you think, how far Arsenal have fallen from grace that we're relying on two 19-year-olds to carry us in this Premier League season. Tells you everything that you need to know about how, where our club is at this point in time. But I think there is a long way to go. There's a lot to do. It feels like we're always talking about having to shift dead weight every single season. We still have a lot of dead weight that needs to be shifted. We still have players that are on stupid wages with very little resale value that we can't move. Arteta has shown a blind faith in Willian. That I don't quite understand. It feels like because he's been one of his signings, he's like it has to work, so he's gonna force him to play him into some kind of form because he has to justify it. Exactly.
So
exactly that, man. But yeah, there's a lot to do. There's a long way to go for Arsenal. And yeah, I mean, I think loads of fans would have have already written off this season, and there's just like, let's just get to summer where we can just start spending some money and recruiting in the areas that we're desperate to recruit in. The one last thing I would like to say is you mentioned it just then, Bobby, when you were talking about Thomas Partey. Of course, he's a player that arrived with a big reputation and a big fee. And a player that I feel like we definitely needed, but he hasn't lived up to expectation. If I'm going to be completely honest and truthful as a fan, I'm never biased. I'm always try and be as balanced as possible. I do believe that he can come good, and I do believe that he's a top quality player, but that's yet to be seen in an Arsenal shirt. He's been injured. It feels like he's struggled to get a solid run of games under his belt. It's been stop and start, chop and change a lot. And I just want to see him get a consistent run of games under his belt and show everyone what I believe he can deliver and what he has delivered at Atletico before Arsenal. I think he's a top player, but we need to see that ultimately.
To be honest with me, I mean, thank you for that, Bitz. When you guys signed Partey, it pained me. I was like, what? For 40 million? That's like, what? How is that? What are you doing? Because all jokes aside, we've seen him showcase in La Liga. We've seen him what he's done at Anfield. Do you know what I mean? Like, mind you, at Anfield, I don't know if he played that well, but he's a good player. And in the economic-wise, financial-wise, 40 million is nothing. I dare say. I think he's been unfortunate. To be fair, he has been unfortunate. Injuries. And I think, it's like Pogba, slightly. When Pogba came to Man United, I think that you don't really realize the level of competence and stature of player till you actually train with them. And I think coming from Atletico Madrid to having such a persona of this dogged way of playing, work hard, you don't get beat, you do not get beat off your individual battles, to come to Arsenal where, let me not troll, but where they're holding do you know what I mean? It's okay if you get beat. So I think the mentality, and it does affect the individual, you go from a mentality from you cannot lose to what we're doing on Saturday night, lads. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I thank you for that. And the way I'm going to segue this, okay, guys, talking about Partey, African player, we've talked about Liverpool's way of finding, let's say, very good players for different prices, certain Africans that they have on the wings. Do you find, how do I say this? Do you find that there is, okay, let's agree that there's a great representation of the community in football, okay? However, the next level up, there's not, in manager coaches, there's not that many visible, we can count on probably hands and toes, okay? I don't want to know your thoughts. How do you feel when you see that?
It's very disturbing. Like, off the top of my head, I can count 3. I think Darren Moore, Sheffield Wednesday,
Yeah.
Nuno at Wolves, and Chris Hughton at Nottingham Forest. And obviously, there's a clear discrepancy. There's a number of black footballers that are playing professionally, but it doesn't translate. So to me, that says, okay, it's fine. You can play the game. You can be there for entertainment, but we don't see you as thinkers. We don't see you as decision makers. And those are the barriers that need to be knocked down. And we've spoken to several players on our platform that have retired. Jermaine Defoe, he's obviously wants to go into coaching. Sylvain Distin said something that pained me. He was like, you know what? I'm not even going to bother trying. There's not going to be a shot. There's not going to be a chance. So why am I going to waste hours and days of my life training at a profession that I'm not going to get into? Some might say that's a bit crass, that how can you give up before you've started? Someone's got to be that person to break through the barriers. But of course, it's painful to see because, you know, when we spoke to Chris Hughton, he said there's a whole host of, there's a generation gap of missing of potential managers that could have come in and done a great job. But it's on the powers that be to make the decision. All these decision makers, the owners, the people at top clubs. And it's, you know, it's even painful because I remember speaking to like a sporting director of a championship club, and his thoughts and views on managers, and it was archaic, it was dogged. You know, it wasn't what you would expect someone at a prominent role to be saying about the inclusion and the diversity at the upper level.
So on that, okay. Now we can all sit here and name players after player that can be. How do we change that? And when I say change that, do we need someone to come forward that is very visible black, visible for the culture, or do we need a program? When I say program, I mean, you know, do we need someone to do a workshop to interview all these black ex-players to get into their minds? Because the reason I'm trying to get into their minds, because Sylvain this time, what he said was very damning. And it was, on one point, I'm like, no, man, you can't do that. Like, come on, like, let's push. We're always told when we grow up, push to be the best, you know, try and break down barriers. Let's get into the room to make these decisions, right? And then on the other hand, you have reality. You know, what's in front of you right now, there's no one visible. So what is the point? And how do we change that? Because for me, as I told you about my son playing football, it's like, I'm thinking, is he going to get in the team? You know, he's going to be the only mixed race kid there. You know, I'm thinking, do I even want to put in that? And then I decided, right, no, actually, let's go. So Doc, I mean, how would we change that?
If I had the answers, I'm sure I'll be able to tell you. But I think it's just having that confidence to say, you know what, I'm good enough. And my way of thinking is to always try and be that change, to always try and break down the barriers and give people in the next generation an easier pathway. So I'll always be the one to say, you know what, go for it. Don't let anything deter you. Yes, there are barriers. There's all these hurdles that you have to jump. But I've always been taught to give 100% and do more than my peers. So
yeah,
it's difficult. And I want to go back to one of our interviews with Julian Lesko, and he was saying at the end of the day, people only listen when it's a big profile speaking. And I remember when he was playing the game, he used to speak out on these things, but because he didn't have the biggest profile, no one really cared. But if you hear someone like a Rio Ferdinand or a Sol Campbell talk at the time, that's when people will take note. So it's sad to say that people are only listening when big profiles are speaking about this. But what about the rest? Everyone's voice needs to be equal.
So my last topic on this before we segue, equality. You know, we have a comment there from Jacob there. He was talking about, you know, you don't want it to seem tokenistic. Now, in my organization where I work, I say to them, if you wanted a translator to speak French, you'd discriminate, wouldn't you? And they said to me, no, wouldn't. I was like, yeah, you would, because you look for someone that spoke French. Yeah, okay. Now, we were talking about the poor, the BAME communities. I hate that word, but I'll use it just now. The BAME communities. why are you sending middle-aged white men to these communities where they can't relate and the kids can't relate? So surely we should positive discriminate, no? What do you guys think? You know why I'm asking this, guys, is because like, a part of me, right, as I told you, I played football and stuff, and I think to myself, I saw people get picked for different teams, for Scotland, Edinburgh, like representing stuff, and I think to myself, I can't even go to any of these people to say how I feel, okay? Like a coach can come and tell me how to kick 5, 10, 15, 20 yards, 50 yards, blah, blah, blah. I know I can do it. It was what was the next step? We always want to develop. Oh, if I can't play football, what am I going to do next? And I feel like there's no representation. So, but why isn't there positive discrimination for that? I know people say it's illegal, blah, blah, but I think to myself, well, you made me the first black leader of the BAME network. Is that not positive discrimination because I'm a black man?
Mm.
See what I'm trying to say, guys? And see what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah.
It's a tough question, I know.
It is a tough question.
It is a tough question, and like I really wanted to ask you guys because like there's a lot of people that I converse with in WhatsApp groups, and we look to you guys, and it's like we think, wow, how you deliver your interviewing skills, your messages, your podcast, and just in general. And I think to myself, I want to do that. So I see representation, and I think I'm going to reach out to these guys and say, yo, do you know, actually, by the way, just to let you know, I want to do this because of you. I don't see enough of us saying we want to be coaches because we don't see enough coaches. So that's what I'm trying to get at. So I probably took a long way to probably say what I want to say. Should we, or the FA or whatever, grassroots, start positive discriminating, saying, Peckham, Waterloo, we're going to send black coaches down there because we want them to know that actually they can be coaches and stuff. There is an opportunity for them. It's really a simple yes or no, to be honest. I don't want to put it too deep on you guys.
I think it helps. And even just going back to one of our interviews with Rio Ferdinand, we're talking about Ravel Morrison and the people that used to handle him. They didn't understand where it was coming from. They couldn't resonate, But he was talking about a manager that I used to play under, Gavin Rose. He's from the ends. He's from the hood. So he was saying that if Ravel Morrison had a manager like Gavin Rose, could things have been different? Because he knows that he's going to be on the street hanging out with his friends because he's come from a similar background, because, again, it comes down to empathy. Who would these kids in the inner city rather listen to? Someone that hasn't gone through what they've been through, or someone that they can say, he understands the game. He understands being on the road, the certain pitfalls that come with it. So I think, when you put it like that, positive discrimination would definitely help.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what is also very powerful is the fact that whilst there aren't a large number of former black and ethnic minority players that are in prominent roles, like within the football and governing bodies, or who are managers or heads of clubs and so on and so forth, what we can't underestimate is the influence and the impact that these people are as role models. So even if not necessarily in very, very prominent positions, but is there a way for us to get a lot of these former players into some kind of mentoring program and mentoring scheme? Can they be employed by football clubs to be mentors and work with these players that are from these disadvantaged backgrounds and who are who are ethnic minorities in a different way? Are there other ways that we can go about doing it, right? Because when I think about it, right, even at the top clubs, there are so few roles ultimately, but there are such a large number of black and ethnic minority players, and there are such a large number of former players who are also black and ethnic minorities. So how powerful a movement like that would be if all of them were to create some kind of mentoring program or scheme or company that looked at, dividing them amongst the different Premier League clubs, say, as a starting point, so that they're working with a handful of the clubs, a handful of the players at these various clubs. Even something as simple as that would make the world of a difference. You know what I mean? A lot of these players that are ostracized and are looked at as badly behaved and misunderstood, it's just literally because they don't have someone to mentor them, someone to be close to them, and I think sometimes it, whilst it would be great to see greater representation at the very top level in terms of those roles, I think we can impact and influence things on a greater scale also, just looking at the other things around, what other things are available, whatever things can be done to try and help foster that mentorship.
But listen, man, I'm just letting you know, but you've got my vote when you go for mayor. I think and I'm with you every word. And do you know what, guys? I ask all the black men that I see. I didn't grow up with that, so I had to aspire to just make it, ask the questions that you probably should ask your father. I think I've learned by asking. If you don't ask, you don't know. You don't get. And I just think to myself, the way I'm challenging things up here is by asking questions. And so, Bitz, thank you for that. Deadstock, thank you very much. That it means a lot to me, the answer to that. Guys, it's been a tough week. We the YouTube Arsenal fan base lost a gentleman in Claude. However, just before we go on to that, Bitz, I just would like to see if you could answer this question. Basically, they're saying Vieira wasn't interviewed for the Arsenal job and hinted at racism. Surely the board would love an iconic like Vieira more than Arteta. What's your quick 2 cents on that?
I mean, if you're talking about legends of the club, you're talking about someone who sets the bar, sets the standard, right?
Yeah.
There are few players that you can look further than Patrick Vieira, right? He is the pinnacle. That is Captain Fantastic. That is a guy who will absolutely command respect from his colleagues, from the people working under him, and so on and so forth, right? So, and in terms of what he's done for the club, for the stature of the club, what he's won, if you compare him to Arteta, I think clearly, there is a gulf in what they both delivered. So from that standpoint, I can understand why fans would prefer to have a Patrick Vieira than a Mikel Arteta, right? Because of the sentiment and what he means to our club. How I see it, however, is that whilst they're both brilliant players in their own right, the route that Arteta has taken in his managerial career, I feel lends itself better to where Arsenal are at this point in time. The fact that he's had that time with Pep Guardiola, the fact that he's had that experience, and the fact that we are in a position now where we're trying to rebuild, we're trying to bring through younger players, we're trying to recruit well, we're looking for things in with a long-term view. I feel that he is a better choice at this point in time. Of course, I'd absolutely love for Vieira to one day be the manager of the club, in the same way that I would love for Thierry Henry to be, right? That's the sentimental side of me. However, I don't want them to come back and manage the club until I feel like they're at a point, in terms of their development, from a managerial sense, that they can take on the responsibility. And I'm sure Dot and Dej would agree it's the same situation with Steven Gerrard. Of course, at some point, because of what he means to the club, they'd want him to come back and manage the club. But you don't want it to happen, before it's allocated time. My mom always used to say to me, a blessing before its time is a curse.
Amen.
And perhaps we've also seen that in the example of Frank Lampard and Chelsea, a brilliant servant of the club, maybe too soon for him to go back, and that's what I don't want to have, because I don't want it to leave a sour taste in the mouth of fans. You don't want to have to sack your an icon of your club. You don't want to see it happen. So I'd rather that conversation be put to bed for now.
Listen, Jacob, I hope that answers your question, my friend. Thank you, Bitz. As I said, man, I'll vote for you 100%. Still going on, guys. As I said earlier, this week's been quite tough for the family of Claude. Obviously, people that were fans of his. There's no secret. I only knew him for less than a month. Spoke to him for a bit. Had him on my show, and there's a thing he said. He was talking about dealing with demons, mental health, saying he didn't want to be here. Guys, the reason I'm asking you this is because you guys you're in the headlights now. You're there. You have a platform, and unfortunately, the society, the higher you go, the bigger target you have. And how are you guys? Claude family, may you rest in peace. My condolences to his family.
Amen.
How are you guys dealing with that? Because pandemic, obviously, you're talking about traveling to the studio, and you know how our moms will tell us, not everyone that smiles at you really wants to see you be happy. Most. I mean, it's true, and I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to say our mums here, because I can only talk about my own, but they make you very skeptic from a very, very young age. I used to say, I was street smart before I was book smart. So how do you guys cope with knowing that there's a bigger target, knowing that you're going to be open to trolling, not even criticism, just negativity? How do you guys deal with that?
I think it depends on who you surround yourself with. Anything you do in life, you're always going to get detractors, people that say they're rubbish, they're not good enough. But I think at the end of the day, the only things that count is my family, my friends, people that support my work, people that I speak to every day, picking up the phone and speaking to Budge, picking up the phone and speaking to Dej. People need to understand that social media is not reality. It's a massive bubble that's not reality. And I think, someone can hide behind a TV screen or a laptop screen or a phone screen and start tweeting abusive stuff to try and put someone down. But I think all that matters is, what do your family think of you? What does your best friend think of you? What does your partner think of you? And I think if you can try and separate social media with real life, I think you'll be halfway there when it comes to blocking out the abuse and actually living your life.
And the way you say that, right? The amount of times I've seen, shout out to Stoppers Time TV, Mayo, he tweets quite well, and he says, please remember this is just an app. Please remember this is not reality. And I try my best that the people of my inner circle, I check in on them, they check in on me. It's just literally positive vibes. Like when I pick up the phone, 100%. I want us to laugh. Let's talk about how did you get on with that assignment? What did you think? What did you think of that show? Criticism, and elevate each other. Elevation 100%. Is very key, and I always say that. I'm dead. For you, do you echo what Dot says?
Of course, and I'll just break it down to something simple. Don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from. Like, I surround myself with my family, friends, mentors. Again, like most of the people I need to be in constant contact with, I've got their numbers. Social media for me is just an outlet to network, to support other people, to push my own content. When I see things on the timeline, someone's doing amazing stuff. Nah, big up, bro. That's sick. Support, message. Like, to be honest, social media is a very small part of my life. And I'll probably be honest, if not for the content that we've got, I probably wouldn't be on social media. I've got a business, I've got a family,
if not for me, I'll be pushing
it's true.
100%.
I have to be real. I'm not, again, everyone's different. Some people seek like community, Twitter's their life, YouTube's their life. For me, I'm not gonna lie, it's not really my life, but I understand the importance of it because make no mistake, without social media, our platform would not be where it is right now, and that's just facts. One of our first guests, or how we sort of got into the game, was through Twitter, asking for advice. You know, who of someone that's now a mentor. So I honestly appreciate social media for what it is, but I don't really take it literally. Like, someone can say, "Oh, you guys are rubbish." Me and Doc will pick up the phone and we're laughing at it. We're like, "Oh, yeah, Doc, did you see what he said?" It's not really. Whereas, but I do understand that some people can be in a fragile state of mind. Obviously, lockdown has exacerbated that. And when we're talking particularly to about Claude, obviously he had some mental problems that Robbie documented well. And maybe a comment, I think I saw one of the comments someone made to him, and I think is like, "Don't worry, I'm going to be with my mum soon," something like that. He might have been in mental turmoil at that particular time. So he's thinking, this is again, I don't want to speculate because his family haven't come out and said why he's died. But for me, social media, some people call it the devil's playground. You know, life is about polarity. There's no bad without good. I prefer to look at the good. I prefer to look at the good of social media and what it's given to our platform. But in terms of the trolling, people posting comments, it doesn't get to me. I don't really care. Like, I've got my life to live. Like, and we've even spoken to other footballers, Benica Folby, Micah Richards, you know, Greenwood, that was on our show this week about abuse. And some of them just say, like, Benica Folby, obviously with the tragic news, what happened to him, is like, come on, bro. Come on, you think social media? Come on, like, again, it's how you take it. It's how you take it.
Do you know what, Bobby? I also have to add, because both Dot and Dej spoke about the importance of like who you have around you. You know, your community, your close group of friends and family. That is very, very important. Like, you can't understate how important that is. And I remember even on our journey, because some like I have been sometimes someone who's been a bit of a hothead, like, and react. You know, and there's been times where people have trolled us or whatever, and I want to get onto, you know what I mean? I want to get into Twitter war or whatever, and I'll go and I'll speak to Dot and Dej, and they'll be like, "No, don't worry, like, calm down, like, it's okay." Do you know what I mean? And make me see it in a different way. But by nature, by default, my thing is, no, what are you talking about? How can you come for our platform? Do you know what I mean? But that's something that I've had to learn over the course of our journey so far. Do you know what I mean? And of course, again, talking about the whole community thing, you know, at least I have someone like Dot and Dej who see things in a different way and can help me to look at things from a different perspective. You know what I mean? That's really, really important.
Social media is not real life. It's not real life. And Dot, there was a few.
We need to
it's not real life. And Dot, there was a situation we released the episode. I remember you put out a tweet, you know, talking about our content, and someone was making personal remarks about the player that we interviewed. Really, really sick remarks. And Dot was, "Oh, did I make a mistake? Should I have posted it?" And I was like, bro. The issue is not you. There's twisted people on the internet. Don't let them warp the reality of what's going on. And I think that was sort of the perfect situation.
No, definitely. And even there was a time where we put out some news, and the news was obviously at the time it was very accurate, but when it came out, it wasn't accurate. And then all of a sudden, we've got like so many replies. You guys are frauds. Deactivate your Twitter account, spewing lies. And I mean, the one thing I always say to Dej is that the way we look at our platform, we see it as a brand. So we always try and make sure the customer is right. We're not going to go and scoop down and start trolling and saying, "Oh, blah, blah, blah." If someone's not happy with our content or feels that we can improve, we always take constructive criticism, because we know that's the only way we can continue to iterate.
And you know, guys, literally, I'm mental. I'm taking notes here, because I hope people that watch this back are listening. I'm not just hearing what they want, they're listening, because for me, I with my circle with mental health and lockdown and stuff has been tough. You know, my wife's my best friend. We have a son. We've had problems, in-laws, as you can imagine, but you know, we're still going strong, thank God. But I have cousins You know, my cousins are my best friends. You know, from Reggie, Joe, Vinci, as I was saying, and I've got cousins in Senegal and America, and we have group chats. And Lord Almighty, thank God for being able to actually be in a group chat on WhatsApp. And through YouTube, I've created a massive social network from Kojo, to guys in the comments, Gunnar, Beats Corner, Benji, and like these people, like I speak to them every day. Like it's crazy. Someone that I've known since I was 9 years old for 20+ years, who I don't speak to. I've met this guy Benji, even Kojo, like Beats on it, and I speak to them every day. And I was thinking, like, we check up on each other, and it's like you said, Doc, surround yourself with people that you will take advice from, that you will listen to, that you want to see do well. And it's funny, isn't it? Positivity is so contagious. You know, it's very, very, very simple. Positivity is so contagious. And you know, I had a few rocky days. The Claude thing didn't help, but I was just like, yeah, but like, you know, I look at my son and I look at my wife and I think, do you know what? Yeah, God's dealt me a nice hand. You know, and
perspective, man, perspective.
Yeah. Do you know? And I just shook myself up. I went out and done some boxing, and like, yeah, I'm back. You know, and obviously I was looking forward to tonight. So no, thank you to give an insight in that.
No, even like lastly, just to add, like the pandemic has been tough for everyone. It's been tough for us. There's some days where we're not feeling like ourselves, and you need Dej to pick me up, or I need Budge to pick me up. And
a few weeks ago, I was probably down in the dumps. Again, mental health is something that can range. You can be 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Then you're 5 out of 10. And there was a day I was struggling. I was like, "Dog, man's out of there." I was in a bad place. So I think that's important for people to recognize, because some people can look from the outside in, these people are bulletproof, they're immune. But no, everyone has their bad days, man. But it's just about having that structure, that mechanism, those people around you that you can call and say, "Bro, man's not at it today. Man's not at it. What's good?" Or go for a walk with my brother or my mum and dad. Like, everyone goes through it, man. This is a pandemic that we've not experienced before. So things are tough.
No, definitely. And like we were, me and Dej were on the phone, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, to a football agent. And he was like, "Listen, it's tough. Like, people think, I'm earning hundreds of thousands, getting player commissions, but like, he's struggling to find deals." You see what I'm trying to say? So this pandemic has hit like everyone hard, and it's not what you think it is. Like, being a football agent isn't this luxury lifestyle that you see, you know, chopping that commission left, right, and center. He was saying, "Bro, like, this has had a huge impact on my pockets." You get what I'm trying to say? I'm struggling. So it's just all about having that perspective and just being grateful that you have a roof under your head, because it's been a difficult time for everyone.
100%. And you know, like, as I said about with making friends and stuff, football life with Anita, you know, listen, big up to Anita, like, man,
madness.
Like,
she's sick, man.
We go back and forth, and you know, check up on each other. Man, I jab to the world. Let me not, you know, I'll say that to the again. I jab to the world, man. But like, seriously, I appreciate her. I know she appreciates me, and it's just finding a good support network that you want to elevate each other, you know. So guys, like, there's another poison in this world, okay? And as black men, we probably suffered. If you haven't, I'm grateful and fortunate that you haven't. Racism, and it's becoming to be not even a fashion accessory now. It's becoming to be, when you write a sentence, you dot your I's and you cross your T's after every football matches. During football matches with some incidents now, I see racism in a different way now. I just think to myself, when it's reported and stuff, or you see it, before I used to be, this is a joke, this is an outrage, like, how dare they? I don't do that anymore. I think to myself, okay, what are they going to do about it? It's now, I've changed my perspective of thinking, what are you going to do about it? And I think, you know, recently in our heads, we can talk about Glenn Kamara, you know, What the club and the player done was disgusting. How the fans conducted themselves were disgusting. Are we shocked? Probably not. I think we're more disappointed that nothing really happened to them. To be honest, there's a culture of this, guys. You know, before we were born, growing up. Now, as we're working, you know, I've seen it in professional fields. You know, I'm studying to be a quantity surveyor. I couldn't tell you one black quantity to surveyor. Do you know, it's tough, you know. Not to say to me, you know, your thoughts on racism, because I can imagine we all pretty much share the same view. What can be done to actually stop it? Does racism have to have a severe punishment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you say this club, you're not going to be in Europe for 2 years because of that incident, that club, they won't do it ever again. So I think when you see people getting fined 40,000, what deterrent is that? It's nothing. That's pocket change for football clubs. So I think to eradicate it, you have to lay down the law. But then you can ask the question, is that just masking over the problem? Because people are still thinking the same way. People are still racist, but they just can't outlay it to the public because their club is going to be punished. But at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, it still tackles the problem. So it's a very difficult question to answer. But until punishments are hurting clubs' pockets and finances, and CEOs and directors of football are not getting paid because they've been fined 10 million or whatever, that's when you'll start to see a drastic change in the game.
And do you think, right, this is what I say, I think, I find it funny, you know, when there's a profile player or there's a high profile incident, we see the adverts, I'm in. We see the kneeling down, which I think is ridiculous personally. We see little adverts on TV, right? Say stand against racism, show racism the red card. Me personally, guys, and I don't want to get you guys in trouble or anything. Me personally, I think it's a waste of time because I've been on the pitch, played at these places where they're horrible to each other. You've heard the monkey chanting, the you being called number 6. You know what I mean? And for me, I'm thinking, do you know what? All these sponsors that you get the money from, why can't you flip it and be like, okay, do you know what, guys? We have the clubs have player liaison officers, right? Why don't you get a representative for like once every 2 weeks or once a month to be like, this is why you can't be racist in this country. This is why you can't be racist in general. Educate them as well as punishing them. You know? You know when people go to prison, they say it's for rehabilitation. And stuff. Right. So let's keep the same energy. Okay. Let's severely punish them. Your club is going to pay 10 million because you said this. Okay. The reason why you can't say this is because of A, B, C, D, and so on. Right. So for the next, from here going forward, twice a month, your club, every employee has to attend this workshop. What's your thoughts on that idea?
I agree with you that all these fasty adverts, it's all virtual signaling. It's all ticking off a box. Okay, we've allocated this budget to this. We're going to tick it off and we're going to have an advert. For me, I'm a man of action. I want to see, okay, we're taking a knee. This is going to lead to this sort of action being taken. But what we're seeing is people just taking a knee and they say, yeah, this is for awareness before games. That doesn't solve the issue of racism, in my opinion. And we've spoken to people high up at clubs. The only way they're going to change, it has to be a top-down approach. From the chain of command, these bosses, if they're really on it, they will figure out ways how to like try and eradicate it. But in my opinion, my humble opinion, I'm not sure if we're going to see big changes in racism until the next 10 to 20 years. I think people have started the conversation. I think we might be onto something in terms of the George Floyd and people opening up their minds. But I think there's a generation of people that, you know, those 40, 50, 60, 70s. Unfortunately, the wiring in their brain has been formed, and I don't think it can be eradicated from them.
Do you know what, Bobby? I agree with your strategy. My issue with it is that I don't trust the people enforcing the law. So the big wigs and the people right at the top of the game in the FA, we've got so many examples that we can refer to of moments where they should have or could have issued, punishments and so on and so forth, but have been very lenient with their approach. And it's like there's a very scattergun approach to how they deal with things. You know, it's like there isn't a clear structure or strategy. It's, you know, okay, this person's going to get fined this much, and then this person's going to get fined that much. But it's like, okay, how did you arrive at that point? You know, if some of these figures, some of these numbers feels like it's just been plucked out from the air. What I would like, instead of these, you know, people marking their own homework, I would like to see them employ a separate governing body to advise them on some of the punishments, right? Who's to say that someone like a group like Kick It Out, for example, shouldn't be consulted on punishments for racism and racist acts, for example? Just using that as an example, you know, because I think ultimately part of the reason why we're not getting the tough punishments that we should be getting, like Dot mentioned, is the fact that the people who are in the positions of power to make those decisions don't truly understand. They don't know what it feels like or what it means to be called a derogatory term. They don't see it from the perspective of someone who may have gone through racial abuse before or knows what it looks like, knows what it means, you know, understands the context behind it. And so I feel like if they were to get the opinions of those kind of people on board, then it would open their eyes to allow them to understand the severity of these things and also how severe the consequences should be also.
Now, I remember going back in the day, like secondary school days, we were playing a football match for the school football team. And we were getting racially abused on the pitch. And as a team, we were like, you know what? At the end of this game, we're going to take the law into our own hands. This around set space, bang. You get what I'm trying to say? And they don't understand how painful it is to be racially abused.
And I think that's coming, you know. I think, you know what, to that point as well, that's coming. There's going to be a time where a player is racially abused on the pitch and he's just going to take the law into his own hands. He's just going to turn around and bang someone in their face. And
back then we were a bit wet behind the ears, but we were young kids from Southeast London. We went to Essex. And they were heckling racist abuse, so we had to do some, you know, physical. Obviously, I won't condone it. I won't condone it for the next generation and stuff. But as I said, we were young then, and we thought that was the action we had to take just to voice our frustration, you know.
And unfortunately, it seems like the only action to take at the moment. We're not, like we said, we're not condoning violence, but there's no but. More of a, you know, when Glenn Kamara, it's only a matter of time, man. Yeah, when Glenn Kamara told Goldson what he said, Goldson was on it. Goldson was like, raw, like he running to it. And like what I tell my colleagues at work, and I tell to the man, I say, you know, to be racially abused, and to tell your story, you're actually repeating a trauma that's happened to you. Because mentally, you're having to explain to someone how you felt. Now, listen, I'm not invincible, okay? I've grown up in Scotland. I'm not naive. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Some football places I've went to, the only black thing they saw is black paint. Do you know what I'm trying to say to you? Yeah. But I'm not naive. However, I was very quick with it. If you said something out of line, I'll punch you in your nose. Like, I didn't even... and I'd say to referees, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? And like referees have said to me, I'm just going to ask you to leave the pitch or to be subbed. Or I've had a few referees that said to me, one spotted me when I would have done the same. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? This is a white referee, right? And what I'm trying, you know, I hear what you're saying about it, but unfortunately we can't punch everyone. You know, and this is where, like, I'll take it back to the positive discrimination. Okay, why can't, in that sense, just say, or FA just be like, okay, do you know what? Yeah, get all these footballers that played for us that have been racially abused, and because what people think that we want empathy. We actually don't. We don't want you to understand because you never understand. You know, you can say, I'm so sorry, I have to go with that. Cut that. Let's just fast forward to the action. You know, like, how are we going to make sure that my son doesn't get that? Your sons, your children, your grandchildren. Do you know what I mean? How are we going to cut that out? That's what I'm interested in. Because, you know, I can tell you umpteen stories about racism, and you can sit there and say, I'm really sorry. I don't want that. I'm not interested. I'm not. No, boys, like,
Keep it real.
I went from being flipping out first day at primary school. They called me Andy Cole because I had a Man United top on. Do you know what I mean? I look nothing like Andy Cole. I went from being the only black person into the primary school, secondary school, football teams, and so on. You know, so I've done it. I've had parents from my own football teammates racially abuse me. I've had teammates racially abuse me. Like, you know, so like, I'm done talking. Literally, shout out Cordial Funds. But like, literally, you know what I'm saying? And I want action. And I think why I'm so passionate about this is because now, when I look at my TV, I'm seeing representation. I see Mike Carr, I see Alex Scott, even flipping Jermaine Janus can get into that category. And obviously you guys, Mayo, Anita, you know, the YouTube scene and stuff. We are the new face. We are the new voice. Okay? Protect us. Do you know what I'm trying to say to you? Like, protect us because it's tough, man. It's tough. Like, and like, I'm done trying to tell people like, oh, this is what it feels like. No, just because then I make it intimate and said to them, I said to this one counsellor, if your son went through half as what I went through, what would you have done? Oh, I'd have went to the Scottish government. And I went straight to the Scottish government. And I said to her, I was like, I don't have that facility. And then she paused. She didn't know what to say. And that was the reality for them. So for me, yeah, man, like, look, I mean, we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. But yeah, it's really nice to hear you three insights on it. I'm going to wrap up with something nice and fun because my group chats have been going off on one. I argued with a friend, Lambs. She was trying to tell me that Didier Drogba was the best African to ever play in the Premier League. And I said to her, you do know JJ Kocher? And she said, I'm not having that.
Are we talking best in terms of ability, achievement, or everything combined?
So I'm not interested in what they want because the way I see it, yeah, in the Invincible season, I think Martin Keown played the minimum games to get a medal. So I'm not talking about what they want. I'm talking about the player. Okay, just the player, the attributes. I'm biased. I don't care. It's Didier Kocher for me. You know?
I got my hands up. I can kick it off, and I don't think it's any of those players as the best African to play in the Premier League. For me, it's easily Yaya Toure.
Now,
that's who I have. That's who I have. I've got Yaya Toure. I'm not gonna lie.
The reason I'm glad you said that because I was going to bring this up if you didn't. When I was on Kunle's show, I'm going to plug his show, First Touch TV. Big up to him. I said to him, I said it's Yaya Toure, and he said why? And I said my answer is going to be different, not ability. Yaya Toure was the first African that they started saying he had technical ability. He was the first African that said he could kick a ball, he could pass. They weren't just referring to him as a monster. Yes, they called him a monster. They called him
beast, a beast.
Yeah. You know, we know Jamie Carragher's vocab isn't the best, but you know that's what he said about him. But my point is that people started seeing African players in a different light and a different view because of this guy. He could dribble. He'll dribble your team, put it top corner. Penalties, which one do you want? Top bins or bottom bins? Free kicks. It was devastating. You know, I've seen him run 30 to 60 yards with the ball. I've
never seen anything like him in my life.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and for me, like, listen, as much as I didn't like Man City for obvious reasons, I was like, rah, Yaya, come on, like, do you know what I'm saying? I was like, that's Uncle Yaya. Do you know what I'm saying to you? But that was my reasoning because they started describing black players differently now because of him, I think.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you. I do agree with you. Bitz, what about you?
So for me as well, honestly, whilst there are some brilliant African players that have graced the Premier League, I think there's some that are underrated, certainly, and perhaps some that we're only going to really be able to appreciate when they're out of the Premier League and they've retired. Someone like Mohamed Salah, for example, I think absolutely can be in with a shout to say arguably he's the greatest African player to play in the Premier League. Just look at his numbers, you know. But for me, Yaya Toure, because he first and foremost, he has everything. Like, he is the complete midfielder. And you know, there's players that you watch and you see them pull off things, and you're like, does that even make sense?
Yeah.
Is that like, do my eyes deceive me? You know, do my eyes deceive? Did he actually do that? There's times that I've seen him shoot from angles and do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Or even I'm going to use a segue and I'm going to talk about Papi Cisse, for example. You know, when he scored that goal, where he was like, it just defied the laws of physics.
The Newcastle one.
On earth. Like, this is absolutely outrageous. And the thing is, Yaya Toure produced those moments of magic consistently over and over and over again. And the thing is, the other thing that makes me like think like this guy was an absolute freak is because I think at times I can be biased in this sense, and maybe not necessarily it's not a good barometer to measure a player. But I always look at the aesthetic of a player, right? And sometimes I look at players and expect them to have a certain build, a certain physique, right?
Yeah.
And I look at some players, and they don't necessarily have what I would deem a footballer's physique. Yeah. And that also adds to the awe that I have for them, you know? So like a prime example is someone like Bukayo Saka for Arsenal, right? For me, he doesn't have the gait, the build of a foot. He doesn't look like a footballer. I wouldn't look at him and think that is a footballer, right? But it adds to the awe that I have for him, because it's like, this guy doesn't look like a footballer, but he's able to produce what he's producing. Yaya Toure is the same. If you look at his build, he might be tall, but his legs are so, like, his calves are so thin. He's got the hips of an East African woman. He's do you know what I mean? He's not like.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
But you know, but for all of those reasons, I'm just like, nah, this guy is an absolute joke, man. He's got to be the number one for me. But of course, honourable mentions to go out to players like Michael Essien, who of course was an absolute gargantuan. Of course, JJ Okocha. We saw him tantalize defenders, man, left, right, and centre. Of course, Didier Drogba, and you know what, Didier Drogba for me is a huge one. Also, not just because of what he done on the pitch, but also, you know, you got a guy that's ending civil wars in his country.
Yeah,
are you serious? Like that's a mountain of a man. Do you understand? So yeah, honorable mentions to those guys as well.
And then, could you just wrap it up for us?
I think the lads have summed it up perfectly. But I also give an honourable mention to Samuel Eto'o. I know he came, you know, towards the end of his career, and he wasn't what he was, but I think he's actually a better striker than Didier Drogba. So, you know, to answer your group chat, I think you can tell them that, Didier Drogba wasn't even the best striker to actually play in the Premier League. So
Eto'o easily. Obviously, Eto'o wasn't in his heyday, but Eto'o easily a better player than Drogba. Sorry. There's no debate there.
100%. And listen, guys, that's been another episode of Bitz and Bobz Meets. Thoroughly enjoyed this, gentlemen. Seriously, thank you so much. Literally, I've learned. Seriously, I've learned in the last just under an hour and a half.
We've learned, bro, man. Thank you. We've learned from you, bro. So
listen, that means a lot to me. Seriously, and like I only wish you guys success. Seriously, keep doing the content, keep working hard, because trust me, there's people younger than me that are watching you guys. Saying, what do you think about this? And I'd say to them, just keep watching them, because that's the only way you learn. Seriously, and that's one of the guys there. Ebs, big up to him, young man.
Big up,
bro.
So he's one of the guys who's trying, and I just said to him, I was like, believe in yourself, And I said to him, watch a lot of people and just learn, because what you can do, and what I done with you guys, I watch how you deliver, how you present. I've done this with Mayo and Nita, and I imprint my personality on it, you know? Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Peace and love to you all. Thank you.